Hello, everybody! Today is September 19th, 2025, and there's some big news shaking up the country. President Donald Trump recently suggested taking away the licenses of major TV networks, a move that could take them off the air. This all started with a late-night show controversy and quickly became a national debate. The issue goes beyond television. It's about freedom of speech and the role of the media in America. When the president makes such a suggestion, the whole nation pays attention. Some people support him, while others are deeply concerned. We'll break down what happened, why it matters, and what it could mean for the future of news and television. This story is about power, words, and the rules that keep things fair. Let's dive in and look at the event that sparked this firestorm. It all began with a comment on a late-night show that quickly became a national headline. What we see and hear on TV can have a huge impact on the real world. This isn't just about one show or one politician. It's about the principles that guide our society. Let's get started and learn about this together. The controversy began on Jimmy Kimmel Live, a popular late-night show on ABC. On September 17th, the show was suddenly suspended after Kimmel made comments about a tragic event, the killing of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Kimmel linked the accused killer to the MAGA movement, angering many viewers who felt it was unfair and insensitive. In response, major TV companies like Nexstar and Sinclair pulled the show from their stations, calling Kimmel's remarks offensive. Sinclair even replaced the show with a tribute to Charlie Kirk. These actions sent a strong message. Broadcasters felt Kimmel had crossed a line and needed to respond to public outrage. The suspension of Jimmy Kimmel's show was the first major step in this story. It sparked a debate about what's acceptable on TV and set the stage for a much larger national conversation. Soon, President Trump and government officials joined in, turning a single show's controversy into a debate about media power and government oversight. The story quickly became more complicated. What started as a late-night joke became a national flashpoint. Now, let's see how the president and the FCC responded. After Kimmel's suspension, President Trump weighed in while traveling on Air Force One. He accused TV networks of being unfair and suggested the government should consider revoking their broadcast licenses. This was a bold statement, especially coming from the president. Trump pointed to Brendan Carr, chairman of the FCC, as the person who would make the final call. Carr had already warned ABC that its license could be at risk if it didn't act on Kimmel's comments, calling them the sickest conduct possible. He emphasized that broadcasters have a duty to serve the public interest, and suggested that those unwilling to be held accountable should surrender their licenses. The president's comments, combined with Carr's warnings, turned this from a debate into a potential plan of action. Suddenly, the power of the government was being linked to the president's personal grievances with the media. This raised serious questions about the role of broadcast licenses and why they matter so much. The stakes were now higher than ever. The conversation shifted from a TV controversy to a national issue about government power and media freedom. People across the country began to ask, what are broadcast licenses and why are they so important? Understanding this is the next piece of our puzzle. Let's break down what broadcast licenses really mean, and why the threat to them is such a big deal. So, what exactly is a broadcast license? Think of it as a driver's license for TV stations, allowing them to use public airwaves to reach your home for free. The FCC, a government agency, manages these licenses to ensure stations serve the public interest. Local stations, like your local ABC, CBS, NBC, or Fox, need these licenses, while cable channels like ESPN or HBO do not. Broadcasters must provide local news, emergency information, and community programming to keep their licenses. The FCC reviews these licenses every few years to make sure stations are meeting their obligations. Losing a license would mean a local station could no longer operate, a huge financial blow. That's why the threat of losing a license is taken so seriously in the industry. When Trump and Carr talk about revoking licenses, they're targeting local stations that air network shows. It's a powerful tool, rarely used, but enough to make broadcasters pay close attention. The debate is about whether this tool should be used for political reasons. Now, let's look at the arguments on both sides. Some people support President Trump and Chairman Carr's tough stance. They argue that many news networks and TV shows are politically biased and unfair to the president and his supporters. These critics believe broadcasters have a duty to be balanced because they use public airwaves. They say constant attacks on one political side don't serve the public interest and only divide the country. Supporters see Kimmel's comments as more than jokes. They believe such remarks fuel negativity and mistrust. They argue that networks should face consequences for what they broadcast, not censorship but accountability. Dave Portnoy, for example, said Kimmel was facing consequences, not cancel culture. The idea is that freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from criticism or consequences. If a show offends a large audience, networks and advertisers should respond. For these supporters, the threat of a license review is a way to remind media companies of their responsibility to everyone. They believe late-night shows have become too political and want to restore balance. For them, challenging licenses is a way to push back against what they see as a biased media. On the other side, many are alarmed by the president's threats. They see it as a dangerous attack on free speech, a core American value. Free speech means people can express opinions, even if they're critical of the government. Critics argue that punishing networks for negative coverage could silence journalists and comedians, making the press afraid to challenge those in power. Legal experts point out that the First Amendment protects freedom of speech and the press, and the FCC can't revoke licenses over political content. The public interest rule was never meant for political punishment. Even the threat of losing a license can create a chilling effect, making networks avoid controversial topics. Defenders of free speech say the answer to speech you dislike is more speech, not government threats. They want a marketplace of ideas where everyone can speak, and the public decides what to believe. For them, protecting free expression is essential to democracy. The president's threat and Kimmel's suspension sparked strong reactions across the country. Many in the entertainment industry, like Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart, condemned the idea as censorship and defended Kimmel's right to speak. Unions like the Writers Guild and Screen Actors Guild called the suspension and threats a violation of free speech. Politicians weighed in too. Democrats criticized the president's words, while some conservative commentators argued Kimmel had gone too far. The FCC's Democratic Commissioner, Ana Gomez, said it was wrong to use a violent act to justify censorship. On Fox News, Greg Gutfeld and Piers Morgan criticized Kimmel's comments, showing the divide in public opinion. Some see late-night hosts as entertainers who crossed a line. Others see them as vital voices now under threat. The reactions reveal just how divided the country is over media, politics, and free speech. This debate is about more than one show. It's about the future of public conversation. At the heart of this debate is the First Amendment, which protects freedom of speech and the press. The founders believed a free press is essential for democracy, allowing journalists to investigate and criticize the government without fear. While the FCC can regulate technical issues, the Supreme Court has ruled it can't censor stations or revoke licenses for political opinions. That's why threats to pull licenses over content are seen as unconstitutional. The First Amendment is designed to protect even speech that's critical or unpopular. In a free society, it's up to the people, not the government, to decide what's fair or offensive. The First Amendment is the ultimate shield against government censorship. This principle is what's truly at stake in this debate. So why does this story matter to all of us? It's about the rules of our democracy and the kind of country we want to live in. The debate asks where we draw the line between free speech and responsibility. It challenges us to consider the role of media. Should it be neutral, or should it challenge those in power? As viewers, we have the power to choose what we watch and support. This debate is happening everywhere, not just in Washington. Ultimately, it's a test of our commitment to free speech and a free press. How we resolve it will shape the values that hold our society together.